Okay, so this is the second time I've had to record this because my phone died and lost the video. Cool. Anyway, yeah, I'll just start from the top. Hopefully it won't be as long. So it's actually been 9 months since I started kind of MIA stuff, and I know my last video was a 6-month update, but I actually did it at 7 months because I forgot to do it at 6. So it's only been 2 months since that. So there hasn't been that much that has changed in terms of like ability things, but I still wanted to do an update because things are kind of changing. Ireland went into a lockdown like 2 or 3 days ago, so it's the 31st today. So we've technically been in a lockdown for a few days. So I'm sure like a lot of people around the world, they have a lot of time at home at the moment. So for me, it's not too different from what I was doing before because I was at home a lot, but obviously there's certain things that I just can't do anymore, which is a bit annoying, but you know, we're dealing with it. Like, so part of my like daily routine before all this was that I used to like be up and out of the house by like 8, and I used to go up and have a coffee somewhere and sit for like an hour, watch YouTube videos, and that would be like an hour of my like immersion in the morning that I would always have. So I can't do that anymore, which is, yeah. So quickly, I think I'll just start with a rundown of the things that have changed in the last 2 months, mainly being that I actually started as an italki tutor. So I initially wasn't sure if I wanted to do this because I was like, I don't want to be encouraging people to be speaking whatever, like to be speaking English if they're still at a low level, and them speaking English is gonna hurt them. And I don't want to be the person that's enabling that. And then I was watching a couple of videos of people who are italki tutors, and they were saying like the vast majority of people are not beginners. They're at a level where they literally just need conversation practice because there's no English speaking people where they live. So I was like, okay, I'll give it a go, and it's been about a month and a half and it's actually been going fine. I've set my profile to only like accept, well, I've written in my profile that I'm only accepting like intermediate to advanced, which means that they're already at a stage where they can speak and that they need practice speaking. So in that sense, I feel like okay about it. I was initially like, yeah, kind of concerned, but I'm not worried about that anymore at all. It's absolutely fine. And it also turned out to be a really good decision in light of a lot of people losing their jobs at the moment because they can't go to work. So the fact that I'm able to work online right now is fantastic. Yeah, so that's grand. So in terms of like being in quarantine or just self-isolation, I thought I was going to be able to up my immersion a lot, but because my routine is like mostly the same, I actually haven't. Like, I've stuck at the 2.5 to 3.5 hours, maybe 4, like that sort of range for most days of like active stuff. So either reading, watching. Started a month ago, I started tracking all of my immersion stuff because I was just really confused about how much I was actually doing each day. So I'm really glad that I started doing this. I have my active immersion tracked, and then I also have my active and passive combined, so like my total. And I've also started doing a series tracker on what shows I've finished recently, and then like I've put the date, and then I've put my how much I felt I comprehended from the show. So I think this will be nice to look back on in like another 6 months or so, just so I can remember what I thought my comprehension was like at that time. And then a little follow-up from my last video where I mentioned that I had taken a italki class with one of my old teachers and that it had gone horribly. Yeah, it did go badly. But that class was actually one that I decided to go to, and I had another class that was already it was paid for in a package that I'd left over from like 9 months ago, and it was about to expire So I decided to book that one as well. And this was with a different teacher. And this one went like so much better. I think I must have just been like nervous or something in the first one. I don't know, but like I barely spoke in the first one. And in this one, yeah, it was so much better. I noticed myself that my vocabulary was a lot bigger. I was a lot more comfortable using basic sentence structures, much more than I had been before. I noticed that I was able to say more. My teacher was also like, yeah, you definitely improved like a lot over the last 6 or 8 months at that stage. So that was really encouraging. Definitely did go to show that even though I'm not at the actual like proper output stage, it's still, things are still like sinking in and like it's working basically. A little bit after that was around the time that all of the kind of corona stuff started, and I was having to stay home a lot more than I normally would anyway, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll book another italki lesson, because I was like, it was kind of fun, and I'm still curious, and there's other things that I wanted to ask the teacher about, like how my level has changed and all that kind of thing. So I was sort of just indulging myself in that. Anyway, so I actually had that second class this morning, and again, it was good. Like, I'm definitely, yeah, obviously I'm not like in anywhere near fluent or able to speak coherently. Well, coherently, yeah, but it's still like very limited and making lots of mistakes. But there's a few things that she said to me that I wanted to kind of make note of. So I kind of started off with asking her what she thought my level was now. And she said, kind of from our conversation today, I'd say B1 or B2. And I was like, oh. Because I know B2 is like considered fluent, so I'm obviously not B2, but it was nice that she said that, because I remember having asked her something like this quite a while ago, and she was definitely like, a B2 class would definitely be too difficult for you at this stage, so that's obviously a fair jump. And then there was another thing that I asked, or she brought up, saying that my pronunciation was definitely like a lot better. She said when I first started, obviously I had a really thick English accent, and she said it's really nice to see now that my like pronunciation is a lot better, and she said that like it definitely sounds German. She gave an example of some way I pronounced something, but I don't know, I can't really perceive it. So she's not German, she's from Switzerland. So she said that some way I pronounced an S was particularly German, or that's the way German people pronounce it. She was like, yeah, it's kind of obvious that you've been around a lot of German people, but obviously I've just been watching them. So that was cool to hear as well, that the accent is in there, it's in there somewhere. And I also had a similar experience with someone last week, but he also mentioned that my pronunciation is notably German sounding. Like, obviously I still have an accent, like an English accent. I'm under no delusion that I sound German, but it is really nice to hear that there are certain sounds that I've picked up properly that I can now produce that actually sound German. Obviously just some. So going forward, like, I'm not going to be outputting regularly at all. Like, maybe every 2 months if I want to do a class. Like they're fun to do, and that's the only reason that I'd be doing them. I feel like I'm definitely not going to be ready for like actual output in the next 6 to 8 months. I'm kind of giving myself that window to see, like, is that the right amount of time to aim for? But my plan for when I do get to that stage is, I've actually already found a teacher on italki that I think I would like to go to. She just does conversation classes. It's fairly cheap. That's all I'm looking for. I know I have German friends, but it's a bit awkward to ask your friends to like correct you. I'm sure they would, but that's not what they're for right now. They're my friends rather than they're my, German things. So I'd prefer to at least start with a teacher, and then I suppose I can always talk with them if I want to. But it's nice, it'd just be nice to know that I have this specific person for actually getting corrections and technical things, I suppose. So that's sort of my plan. I would maybe want to do one or two kind of conversation classes a week once I get to the stage of wanting to output. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. Hopefully it's not too far off, but I'm not like racing to get there, it'll happen when it happens. I noticed recently that I think I'm starting to be able to hear the difference. Well, I can already hear the difference, but really noticing it between accents from Germany, like a main kind of neutral German accent, and then also the accent from I keep nearly saying Austrian German, so confusing. The accent from Austria. I'm noticing like what makes it sound different, which I think is kind of funny. Like, there's one of the people that I watch on YouTube is this girl Jana. Hopefully we don't get any signs. Anyway, so she's Austrian. Sorry, the way you say Austrian German is Österreich, and I keep nearly saying that. Anyway, I just thought it was funny that I started noticing that, like, the word for like today in German is heute, and I've noticed that whenever she says it, it's like heute. It's, I don't know, it's more like melodic. It's like heute ich habe. Like, I don't know. It's funny. Like, I'd like to be able to at some stage try and be able to do an Austrian accent, because I don't know, I've just noticed it's funny. And then I also started watching just the other day, it's not there, the new Netflix series Freud, about Sigmund Freud, and that's Austrian, and the accents in that are like a fair bit heavier, so I kind of have to use subtitles for that because I actually can't understand what they're saying. But I just thought the accent thing was kind of funny. And then going into media and stuff that I'm watching so a lot of the stuff that I'm still watching is so I got into watching Korean dramas recently, because the first one that I ever watched, I was able to watch it with a German dub, but then the later ones that I watched, I was able to watch them with the subtitles, so that actually turned out to be a really, really good way for me to sentence mine. So what I did, what was the show called? One Spring Night, there we go. So this is the show that I watched. There was 16 episodes and they're about 50 minutes long, so it's a pretty long show, but I got like 170 cards out of it, which was great. So what I started doing was basically making cards on the go, which was, if I saw, because I'd have the subtitles on, it was a lot easier to mine rather than from just listening to it, because I could copy and paste, because I have I think it's called Subadub Netflix add-on, which means you can copy the subtitle text, which is really handy. So I suppose I'll take this time just to go into Anki a little bit, because it's changed a bit. Okay, so these are all the cards that I make. So the way that I'm doing it is using ShareX. So I'm pretty sure, so on Matt vs Japan's channel, he has a video about how to set up ShareX, and it's actually like really, really helpful. So I've been using that to get screenshots and also to get someone speaking the word. So I'm not, obviously I couldn't record audio because it wasn't actually in German, but even recording audio in a TV show is a bit like fiddly, because you have to like rewind and start capturing the audio just at the right time, and I kept getting it mixed up and it was just taking too long. So what I decided to start doing instead was just getting the more focused word and just putting the audio for that in, and that made things a lot quicker. And I think I made note in my last video the stuff that I was using to get like the recordings and also the definition stuff. And what I did the other day, I was getting sick of having to type the word into both different places that I wanted to search it for. So with a combination of auto hotkeys and also a script that some guy who wrote a book, what was his name, Gabriel something, I don't know, I'll put the link in the description. Anyway, he has a script that either he wrote or someone else wrote, I'm not sure. Basically for searching a word, and you put in the websites you want it to search and it'll just automatically do that. So this is just my auto hotkeys thing. So basically all I had to do was say I wanted this word. I would copy it, and then I have my shortcut is Control-Shift-D, and that opens both of the websites, which, okay, it took me about an hour and a half to figure all this out and to find this script and everything. It saved me so much time, and if I ever had to go back to doing it manually, oh, I'd be so annoyed. So that's really handy. So that's kind of what I've been doing with my cards. So I was able to make a load of cards from watching these like Korean shows, and like the vast majority of sentences that I didn't understand were I+1, so that's good. I've moved on to a couple of other shows, and what I've started doing now with kind of card creation is, instead of making the whole card as I'm watching, I've started just taking the sentence and then the screenshot, tagging it as marked, and then tagging whatever show it's from. Sometimes I'll put in the focus morph. So I have this kind of list, it's not that small, it's only 16, of cards that I've basically figured out already, and then I can go back and fill in all the information in them. So I have my saved searches here set up so that that's easier to do. Okay, so another thing that I noticed with my cards was when I'm reviewing my cards, I don't put the picture on the front, but I just have the sentence. So what I noticed as well is like the picture was helping me too much, so I got rid of that. That's on the back now. But having the sentence, sometimes I only remember the word, even if they're mature cards, I only remember the word in context of the sentence. So like I got to the stage where I was recognizing a word that I knew was in Anki while I was reading like on my Kindle. I knew it was in Anki, but I had no idea what it meant. So I realized I wasn't actually learning the words for some, like this didn't happen to every single word, but for a fair few words that was happening. So what I decided to try and do was I figured out that I want to change the cards to be essentially vocabulary cards on the front after a certain amount of intervals. So I figured that once the interval was above 5 days, that's what I've saved here, 5 days, is that I'm going to change the cards to this new card type that I made. I'm just calling it graduating card. So on the front of that is just the word. And it's harder, but I've noticed already just after doing it for a few days that I definitely know what that word is. I've got the Mind Illuminated book. I'm kind of working my way through that. I'm past the introduction thing, and I think I'm getting on to like establishing a practice. So in the meantime of having started that, I've started using, just for the last few days, Headspace. I know they have like a basics thing. It's probably not like the best thing, but like I've really enjoyed it, and it's a nice introduction, easy way to get into, you know, setting a certain amount of time aside. So it's only 10 minutes, and I've been doing that before I go out for like a morning walk, and I've enjoyed doing it, so it's definitely like give me a nice taster. So I think for the time being I'm going to stick with doing Headspace while I'm reading the Mind Illuminated, and then can kind of incorporate anything that's not in Headspace from that, and hopefully that'll go well. So to do with my reading, I don't know what book I was on when I last made a video, maybe it was the same book, but currently I'm reading on my Kindle Yeah, so at the moment I'm still reading, like the English title is When Hitler Stole Pink Rabbit. And I like it, I just kind of forget to read. So I'll go days without reading, and yeah, it's not great, but I'm kind of getting into it a little bit more regularly again. Yeah, I did actually mention this the last time. So yeah, reading on my Kindle, and I also started reading a book called Momo, and it's by the same author who wrote The Neverending Story, which I'm sure people probably know. His name is Michael Ende, and the book Momo is like good, but the only thing about it is there's a little bit of like fantasy in it. So there's been entire paragraphs where I've just been lost. So I've put that aside for now. I would like to get back to it because it was like interesting to read. Yeah, so I'm gonna keep going with that book that I'm on now. I think I'm almost finished it, so I have the next 2 books downloaded already. So I think going forward, my main thing is that I need to get more of a schedule going, because I have all this time in the day and I'm just not using it as effectively as I think I could be using it. Comprehension wise. Okay, so quickly, comprehension wise. So some of the shows that I've been watching, so I recently watched on Netflix, there's a new one that came out, it's called Unorthodox. And it's kind of an interesting one because, so it's an English language thing, but it's about the Orthodox community in New York, so they speak Yiddish. So even though I watched it dubbed in German, they only dubbed the English, so the Yiddish is still in Yiddish. The thing about Yiddish is that like it's half German, which is kind of weird. So there was still subtitles, but I could understand like maybe 40% of the Yiddish, maybe 50, it depends, because it's so much, it is German. So I watched that show. It was sort of half of it was me reading subtitles of the Yiddish, and then the other half was just dubbed normally in German. And I reckoned that I understood 80% of that whole show. Like I was able to follow the plot. Yeah, that was fine. Maybe every now and again I would look up a word when the subtitles are on, but I don't ever stop the show when I'm just listening to it. So if there's no subtitles, I don't stop and look up words. It's only when there is subtitles. So I felt that was about 70%. Most of the stuff that I'm watching recently, that's dubbed content. I'm getting like, I kept thinking 80%, and then I was like, maybe 80 is too high, maybe I'll say 70. But like I don't have trouble following what's happening. Obviously there are some things that I don't get, but the majority of things I feel like I'm not missing crucial plot points or anything like that. Like I can like happily sit and watch it. Maybe I've just gotten used to not understanding things, so maybe I feel like my comprehension is higher than it is. I don't know. It's subjective, so there's not really any way to properly test that. For the subtitled shows, like the Korean drama shows that I've been watching a bit, I also felt like that was 80%, but I was able to run the subtitles through Morphman's readability analyzer, and that said I had a readability rate percentage of 90, which is quite high, but I wonder, I don't know, that might just be because I was mining it as I was going, so it might not reflect how much I understood as I was watching it. So I watched the show Sex Education season 2 at the end of January, and I have written down that I understood 60 to 70%, and then around the same time I've written that I watched season 2 of Parks and Rec and also understood 60 to 70%. So those types of shows are pretty similar to the other types of shows I'm watching now. So that makes me think that I feel my comprehension has gone up. Whether it actually has or not, I don't know. But it's definitely some sort of progress. But maybe in a couple of months I'll realise that my comprehension wasn't 80%. But anyway, we'll see. The sort of stuff that I'm watching on YouTube is, oh my god, the coronavirus is everywhere. Like corona, health systems, corona. Like it's all over my feed on YouTube, so it's kind of hard to get away from. But yeah, I don't know, nothing really much to be done about that. So the last like month or so I've been kind of into the Korean dramas, which has been great for mining, but it just meant that I was getting slightly less listening immersion, but I feel like I'm not, like my stats for listening, like active immersion, like I'm not lacking in listening to just pure native stuff, because that's all I get from YouTube. So most of the days I have at least an hour and a half on YouTube. I'm obviously getting a lot more reading in because I'm watching subtitle shows, and I'm reading a little bit more from the Kindle, but like not that much. Yeah, so that's gone up, and I think that's been good. I've definitely noticed the impact of doing Anki more regularly. Like, I was doing it, but I wasn't making new cards as much, and now I can feel, I notice the progress that I make. I notice when I've learned a word in Anki like 2 or 3 days ago, and then it comes up, and I know what it means, and so it's happening in such a short amount of time that I'm noticing the impact that it's having, so that's really good. So that's why I definitely want to keep on with the watching subtitled shows, because it's such an easy way to sentence mine, which is good. So I think I'm gonna wrap it up there, because I've no idea how long this is, and I feel like my last video was pretty boring. So hopefully this is a bit more informative in a different way. Yeah, so I don't know, I'm kind of bored at home, so maybe I'll make some more videos. I don't know, it's something to do. It takes a while for me to record them, and then I get to like edit them, and yeah, I like doing that. I don't know if anyone knows or cares, but like I did film and TV in college, so I like editing and all that kind of stuff, but I don't really have anything to do right now, so this is like a nice little project for me. It doesn't take very long, but yeah, it's something to do. So yeah, I'll wrap it up there. Hope everybody is keeping safe and using their time wisely while we have it. May as well make the best of the situation, you know. Stay home, watch TV. Sounds pretty good. Okay, anyway, okay, I'm gonna go. Bye.